This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Clark Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, a.k.a. The Coach.
And I'm your co-host, Caitlin Michelet.
And listen, here we dive into all things personal growth, leadership, and becoming the best version of yourself. And today, man, oh man, we're going to be getting a little gritty.
A little gritty. Aaron, this book is Mental Toughness Boot Camp with No Mercy. That's a tough one.
Yeah. They Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This is not your feel good, everything's going to be okay. It's more like, get up, stop whining. You've only hit 40%. Whew.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good one. But before we hit the ground running, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Vicki Hubbard with Hubbard Flooring Studios. Hey, listen, whether it's your mindset or your living room, having a solid foundation matters. And when it comes to real foundations, beautiful hardwood, luxury vinyl, tile, Vicki is the coach you want in your corner. She's been helping families and businesses across the region step up their style one floor at a time. So if you're ready to upgrade your space, give her a call at 225-924-1582 or visit hubbardflooringstudio.com. That's Hubbard Flooring Studio, where your next level starts from the ground up.
Exactly. Now, if you're new to Goggins, just know he's part Navy SEAL, part ultra marathon runner, and part your inner drill sergeant.
And I love that. And today we're breaking down the lessons, the wild stories, and the mindset shifts that Can't Hurt Me delivers. Spoiler alert, this episode might make you uncomfortable, but in the best way possible.
And if you're someone who's hit a wall lately, mentally, physically, maybe even emotionally, I know we all have at some point, this might be the fire you didn't even know that you needed.
So buckle up, because we're about to talk about calloused minds, accountability mirrors, and why most of us are tapping out way too early.
Now, speaking of strong foundations, let's get into today's episode.
Yeah, so we're going in and talking about They Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And to give you a little bit more context. Ooh, what context? Thank you. And that's why I have a co-host now, because sometimes I just don't know how to speak. You know, I'm a speaker and trainer, and sometimes you just don't know how to speak. Guys, anybody can do this leadership stuff, right? Right. Yeah. Let's try that again. So that to give you a little bit more context than now that I've learned my ABCs. So David Goggins, a terrible childhood. You know, he really goes through and some of it, how he talks about how he grew up, that just the abusive situation that he had with his father, and then moving, you know, when him and his mom moved back home to where she was originally from. It really goes through, and man, like you really just think, how did this guy make it through? He goes in and talks about how he skated through school and, you know, ended up having getting labeled as having learning disabilities, and tried his darndest not to do that. Eventually, I just became extremely overweight. Did what it took to get out of high school, made it into the military, dropped out, got over 300 pounds. And then within a 90-day period, because he wanted to become a Navy SEAL, that was his ultimate goal. He dropped over 100 pounds in 90 days, which to me is just mind blowing, because I mean, I can't imagine losing that. I mean, I'm struggling right now just to get my 20 off. But as Goggins would say, that's because I'm lazy and undisciplined.
It's true.
Yeah. Talk about hitting you through. And so then he makes it through the SEALs. And now, guys, he, and not just to give you the full story, but he becomes a Navy SEAL. And go watch any documentary there is out there on Navy SEALs, and you will see that becoming a Navy SEAL, that is not an easy task. And so he went through and did that. After he became a Navy SEAL, while he was back home, he decided to raise money for his friends who were part of some of the operations that went wrong, that he decided to become an ultra endurance athlete or ultra marathon runner. So if you're not familiar with that, ultra marathon races that are over 100 miles long.
That's wild.
So think about that.
Yeah. That's wild.
Wow. That one blows my mind every time I think about it, just because, the running was never my favorite thing. That football, it was more of a hey, punishment. I don't know if they made y'all run a whole lot for dancing or not.
Not really. I mean, dancing is pretty much, similar in kind of the exercise world to running, with the endurance and, the kind of, what's the word I'm like, stamina, that you have to build up. It's similar to running. So no, we didn't really have to do both, but I was the same way. Like, I didn't really like running either. I feel like it's boring, honestly.
It is, but and so I've done before where hey, let's see how long it takes me to run a mile. Let's see how long it takes, whatever. But these ultra marathon runners running 100 miles, usually it's like running for 24 hours. It's not like, hey, let me show up. And I mean, I got to meet a guy who actually was like, yes, I competed against Goggins, that he was at a conference speaking. And he was just talking about the training and everything that takes. Wow. Just wow. I've got a whole lot of respect for these people who do this, because it is not for the faint of heart. I couldn't imagine running for 24 hours, and much less 24 minutes or 24 seconds.
24 minutes. Yeah. I mean, it's the stress that you put your body through. I mean, Goggins, talks about how your body literally just starts shutting down, and you just keep going. You don't know how far you can really push your body until you're in those kinds of situations, which I feel like is perfect, for a Navy SEAL to really know and understand, how far you can truly push not only your body, but your mind. I feel like that's the biggest part of it, is the mental game.
Yeah. I used to tell my players and students when I was teaching that if you ever saw me running, you needed to have one of two reactions. Either A, stop me and see if there was anything you could do to help, or B, join in and run with me, because I'm running away from something else. It's not a fun thing. Yes. And so, I mean, there's the structure was really cool. There were 10 chapters, and at the end of each one, he gives you a challenge, and it's to help you become the best you can be. And as my mentor that Lexington likes to say, that to give your stretch every single day, because Lexington says that your best is a cop out. Give your stretch. And so it's a blend of memoir and personal development. And so kind of the three main themes that I really want to focus on throughout our time here. And let me know if you agree or disagree with these three main themes. But The first one that I want to talk about is the power of the mind. He said, you are in control of your own mind. You just have to learn how to callous it. And it's so truthful, guys. There's the human body is capable of so much more. And I don't want to go into too much more than that because that will be part of my next point. But how often we don't reach what we want to reach is because we're mentally too weak to go accomplish that. And so what do I mean? This could be something as silly as me going, oh, Caitlin thinks she's going to be a leader. Have you seen her do this lately? I mean, oh my goodness. And Caitlin going, well, it's all over now. Or like we had on one of the first Ask the Coaches where, oh, well, they're saying hateful things. Well, guess what? They're going to say hateful things. And you know, he goes through and really talks about just the power of using your mind and really making it numb to those things, making it to where you can take any situation and overcome it. I really liked how he talks about attacking the day and really instead of giving that like, hey, Caitlin, you can do it. You're capable of doing this. A lot of what he does, and it's really worked for me. I kind of really like a lot of this, you know, as the recovering football coach, and because it's very in your face, and so he said some not so nice stuff about what you should tell yourself, like, hey, oh, Aaron, you're trying to get down to under 210 pounds by the end of the month. You know why you're not doing that? Because you're lazy, and that's why you're hitting snooze right now. And it's just kind of like, oh, it brings me back to those football days. And I remember when my coaches would just get on, and it was because they didn't want me to stop. They wanted me to keep going, and they were really pushing me to be better. Like Goggins is talking about that here. He's wanting you to go through and just fully embrace that the most powerful weapon you have is your mind. You know, I heard somebody once say that the strongest nation in the world, or the most powerful nation in the world, it's not the United States of America. The most powerful nation in the world is not Russia. It's not even China. The most powerful nation in the world is a MAGA nation. I'll say it's right here.
Yeah.
It's right between the ears, guys. It's right between the ears. So the power of your mind, that's the first main one that he really goes through and really talks about. But then the 40% rule. And so I didn't want to go there. That's why I was like, don't go too much. And he said, look, when you think you're done, you're only at 40% of your potential. And so, Caitlin, as you were talking about the body shutting down, you pushed it. What can you do next? Well, really, you've only reached 40% of your potential. You've only drained 40% of your energy. You have more. And I don't know about you, Caitlin, but I know in anything, it's like there's several times each day I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to quit. It's been a hard day. It's happened to me. It's been happening to me a lot lately. It's been a hard day. It's been tough. You know what? It's only 3:00. I quit. And then you're like, oh.
Right. Well, I think, of the two, themes that we've talked about so far, it's really driving home the amount of choices that you make in any given day. It's not that you can't do XYZ. It's you don't want to, you could, if you really wanted to, you would make it happen. Can't get out of bed in the morning. Yes, you can. You just don't want to. You can't keep going, till 5:00, 6:00, 7:00, 8:00. Yes, you can. You just don't want to.
Right. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. You don't want to. And that's a choice that you have to live with. But you can't then complain and say, I don't make enough money, or I don't have enough time to do stuff in the day. Yes, you do. You made choices, you made decisions. So yeah, it's a hard look in the mirror. And I know that's another one that we're going to get into.
Yeah. And he talks, and that's why I wanted to bring that because you were talking about it, was his accountability mirror. And so what he would do is he put stuff on, like he would put sticky notes on his mirror. And with everything that he did right, he'd put a good thing. If it was bad, he'd put a bad thing. If he didn't give 100% today, he would write, "You didn't give it all," and slap that on the mirror.
Ooh.
And
it's hard.
and that's what I think why we're all not as successful as we could be, because we won't hold ourselves.
We're not honest.
It's like, it reminds me of my son's graduation. People often say, what's wrong with this generation today? What's wrong with that? And what we need to do is go to that accountability mirror and go, am I giving the next generation the best shot? Am I doing everything that there is to do? Am I holding them accountable to treat people with respect, to turn their homework in on time, to do the right thing, even when nobody's looking? Am I doing that? And you have to start with your children. But look at that person in the mirror. I said it. I say it. I say it. I say it. The most difficult person for Aaron to lead is Aaron, because Aaron knows if Aaron's given 110%, or if he's stopping at 40 and calling it quits, that if he's whining and complaining.
I'm going to tell you right now, Aaron don't listen.
No, Aaron doesn't. Aaron's pretty stubborn. He's going to keep going. But that's what Caitlin has to do too. Caitlin's got to look at the mirror and go, is Caitlin giving it everything? Mm-hmm. Or could Caitlin give more? Could Aaron give more? Could fill in the blank? It really comes down to us and what we think or what we're doing, So we talked about the power of the mind, the 40% rule. And the last one that I really want to hit that Goggins that really stood out to me is he often talked about being uncommon amongst the uncommon. So what do we mean by that? What does he mean by that? Well, if you're a Navy SEAL, you're pretty uncommon. If you're an ultra marathon runner, you're pretty uncommon. But he wanted to be uncommon amongst the uncommon. He wanted to be the best of the best of the best. So he would do stuff while they were out training, and he would talk about this while they were overseas getting ready during his first tour. He got put in charge of PT, and they were like, at some point they went and complained to their captain or lieutenant, I can't remember the ranks, about it, because they're like, Goggins is making us do all this crazy stuff, and we're not even in a war zone yet. But Goggins was looking forward to, like, hey, when we get in that situation, that everybody's coming home. We're going to make it through because my crew is that tough. And that's what he wanted. He started thinking is, how do I be more than everybody else? He wanted to be better. And I love it. This was how I was striving for excellence in elite environments.
Yeah. I feel like you don't really think about that a team as strong as the SEALs, or something comparable, which there's not much, comparable to that level of eliteness. But that even a team like that needs a leader.
Right. He even went through, just because he didn't want to take a break while he was on home, like when he got home from a tour, and decided, you know what? I want to be an Army Ranger as well. They said Army Rangers are tougher than SEALs. I want to go do this. And became an Army Ranger. What? And then tried to make it through, what's the next? Delta School. Task Force Delta. And not Delta College. I mean,
That's tough.
we're not on that. We're great. But we're not like drop you off in the woods and
Yeah.
good luck, champ. But,
Yeah.
And in that, he talks about how you have to embrace the discomfort. And for those of us that are leaders, those of us that are entrepreneurs, those of us that are out there trying to make it, you've got to embrace that discomfort because it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to hit a point in your career where, is this even worth it? Every single person I've talked to that is still in business, that's successful, that's done it 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, they'll tell you at some point they were like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I remember my granddad, I asked him, I said, at what point did you know you could continue doing this? He said, whenever I took out the second mortgage on my home, that I knew I had to do this. And it took 8 years. He said, if I could go back, because when I did that about year 3 and took out the second mortgage, if I'd have known then, I wouldn't have started. And so I'm very grateful for that. But it was extremely uncomfortable that in his life.
So I have a question for you about that. Because Goggins, pushes himself so far beyond the norm, the, kind of basic everyday, functions of, the human body and the mind and all those things. Do you think that Goggins goes too far in how he pushes himself, or is there value in that extreme mindset?
I think there is value. And so I am going to pause because I want your thought, guys. Drop a comment down there. Do you think that mindset's too extreme? And if you hadn't pressed like, subscribe, and follow, do that right now. This is going to continue to help us bring about great guests, great content to you. And it costs you nothing more than just moving that mouse or taking your finger and going like, subscribe, and make sure you go do that. And so I do think that it's not applicable to everything. I mean, where he's going is do what it takes to be better than the best. So if you're going to be a nurse, well, naturally it's going to be a little extreme for you to, let me see if I can go run 800 miles and that's getting a little extreme. But what he's saying is challenge yourself to be the best nurse you can be. And don't accept that, hey, I made a 80% in anatomy and physiology. Why did you only make 80%? Go turn around until you learn it all. Go get 100%. Yeah, you pass the class, but you need to know all of that. And you should want to be better than everybody else. That way, when a situation arises, you know what to do. So it's not saying that everybody in here has to go and work out like Goggins did or go look for just range scenarios to go through and do. But go be elite. Go do that. I think it's very applicable for all of us.
So being elite kind of in your own field, like in your own journey. Like you said, if you want to go run an ultra marathon to be the best nurse you can be, like they may not really be related. But yeah, I mean, I remember just was it the last nursing graduation or the one before? But sometime in the past year, I remember seeing a nursing student graduate our program from Delta with a 4.0. I mean, just wild. Like you don't see that. And then another student that had like a 3.96 or something, right there. And it's like, gosh, so many are just trying, like just trying to pass. And you can do it. I've seen it, now I can say for myself, I've seen it. You can make straight A's. But you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices along the way. You have to make a lot of choices.
Oh yeah. And he does talk about that too, as how many people said running a 4-minute mile was impossible. And I can't think of the guy's name. He's from England, but he eventually, they ran a 3-minute and 59-second mile. Within a month, there were 4 other guys that did it. It was impossible. It was impossible to go do it. You could not run a 4-minute mile. It was not possible for you to run a 4-minute mile. The second somebody does it, 4 other guys do it within a month.
Raise the bar.
And now it's been done so many times. You know, I don't remember what the record is, but every time they're like, hey, you couldn't get under 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And the second somebody does it, it's like, there's 10 more people that just did 3 minutes and 50 seconds. It really is in your mind. And wanting to challenge that status quo, be the first one to go through and let people say, hey, if Aaron can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I ran a 4-minute mile, but
I can drive one in less than 60 seconds. I'm pretty proficient at that.
All right, so we got the power of the mind, accountability mirror, 40% rule, embracing discomfort. What else?
Yes. And so I just kind of want to talk about as far as like, how did it impact me? How did the book impact me personally? And I did talk about it a little bit because it's changed some of how I'm talking to myself. That's one I talk about often. You know, affirmations is important.
Which, let's be honest about the language of the book, because I feel like we've been keeping it very G-rated today.
We've been keeping it PG because, as we used to would say G meant gangsta, and well, you know, they ain't keeping it any other way but real. So, also, they actually was a movie that Snoop Dogg made. He does throw that out. This movie is G for gangsta, and you know we gonna keep it real.
Keeping it real.
Oh, Snoop.
All right, well, we're keeping it family friendly tonight, but
yes, we are keeping it very family friendly. Like I would, if you listen to it, don't listen to it with your kids in a car.
You know, we said earlier, it's gritty, it's tough.
Yes, and so and that's why I said just being able to talk to myself and go, you're not giving enough, and really being real with myself. Because why am I not achieving whatever it is that my goals are? And you said it earlier. I really don't want to. It's like what really got me started in all of the podcasting. That was because Zachary and Levi said, hey, Dad, you should, some of these lessons you're teaching us, put them on TikTok. They would be great. And that was the very first one I did, is that you don't want to win. People aren't winning because they don't want to win. And you may be going, what do you mean I don't want to win? Everybody wants to win. No, everybody likes the idea of winning, but not everybody wants to win. Because if you really wanted to win, you would do whatever it takes to win. So not everybody wants to win. And I think that's where he's really coming from, is stop blaming people for your lack of accountability and your lack of want and that nonsense. Stop blaming people. Own that right there. Own that you can go through and do just about anything that you want to do. It really comes down to you. And so that's what was the biggest thing that I took. Because I mean, if this young man can go through the abuse and the neglect and I mean, just everything, you know, somebody who it just experienced some of the horrible stuff that he experienced and still go and do all of these great things and accomplish that stuff, you can do it too. Because most of us don't have life as hard as he did. And I'd probably say 90 to 95% of us don't have life as hard as what he had. And so it was really good just to remind me that, hey, if you want it, go get it. Don't just set goals to set goals. Set processes. And if you break goals, cool. And just really challenge your status quo. Challenge, well, why are we doing it that way? Is that going to help me? Is that going to help others? Is that going to make others better? My goal is to lead and help drive people to be better at that. And so, absolutely, yeah, it was phenomenal. It really, like Caitlin was saying, if colorful language upsets you, don't read or listen to this book.
He talks like SEAL, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, he is a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched any war movies, but I just showed my son Saving Private Ryan for the first time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, these guys, oof." I'm like, "Yeah, that's how they talk over there."
Yeah.
Good.
Well, he's rough around the edges for sure. I wonder, I mean, we talked about this. I'm a psych major. Okay, I gotta connect the dots here. So I wonder, kind of tying in, David Goggins' childhood and, pain and suffering that he went through growing up, how that kind of connects to his experience and the way that he's willing to challenge himself and suffer. Really, it seems like he's not afraid of pain and suffering. And I mean, that's deep. Like, how does, like you said, most people don't have it as hard as he did. They don't go through the pain and suffering that he went through as a kid. So how do you get comfortable with the uncomfortable? How do you not fear pain and suffering? I mean, I feel like that's a natural fear, is pain and suffering. I mean, how do you get past that?
That's a good question. So I've told y'all, my son races motocross, and we as human beings, that we have two natural fears. That we're born with two natural fears. The rest are learned. That one is the fear of falling. That if you don't believe me, if you find an infant, just when you're holding them, just kind of drop them down just a little bit, and you'll see them like, uh-oh. And that's one that they say is an instinct to start reaching to try to grab something. So they fear of falling. And number two is the fear of loud noises. And so with motocross, you're dealing with both of those all the time. Those bikes are very loud, and you are probably going to fall at some point. And it's knowing that it really doesn't hurt. And I think it's how the people around you react to it. And so, Inky Johnson tells a pretty cool story about teaching his son to ride a four-wheeler. And during the story, the son, he gets on the gas real hard, makes a sharp turn, and they both fall off the four-wheeler. They flip the bike. And so he sees, hey, here's my wife and her mom and my mom, and they're all running over to come make sure we're okay. And he's like, oh no, I've got to get my kid up. I mean, he's bleeding and whatnot. And he's like, I got to teach him in this moment, in adversity, you have to get up and you have to fight back. And so he picks him up. He puts him on puts the four-wheeler up. He throws him on the four-wheeler, and he's like, go heavy, go now. And so when they get back, they ask him, the wife and mother and, everybody who's like, oh my gosh, he's bleeding. And he's like, man, that was awesome. That was great. The kid was just like, wow, that was cool. And he was like, guys, it wasn't about the bleeding. It wasn't about falling over. I want my son to know when life punches you in the mouth, you punch back. You don't back down. And we've been so conditioned. Oh, when people fall down, oh, baby, are you okay? Or when something goes wrong, that people come in and like, oh, instead of allowing your kid, I mean, go to the playground, watch people with their kids, and they're like, don't fall, baby, don't fall. Let them fall. Let them do it wrong. Let them they try to put the square peg in a round hole. We know it's not going to work, but let them try. Let them try and fail and do it wrong. And because we all view failure the wrong way. Failure isn't a bad thing. It's part of the process. And so that's being learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable just comes from doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. You have to keep going at it. I mean, everybody loves watching the NFL, but how many of those guys couldn't do that the first time they did it? Everybody loves watching professional athletes do whatever it is, but they put in time, and it's very uncomfortable to be at whatever level you are as a professional.
Right.
So you just have to do it a bunch, and you have to be okay with knowing I'm going to fail. Yep. Thank God we all learned how to walk before we learned how not to learn.
Yeah. Those babies, they just keep going. I'm going to get it eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the inner game of tennis. I'm making Levi read that one again, as he talks about that. And it talks about the mind is so powerful. Okay. Point number 2, the power of the mind, or point number 1, the power of the mind. It's so powerful. What you see, what you can do, etc. A phenomenal book. I couldn't recommend it enough.
Well, so back on Goggins, I am curious. I mean, something that I saw a lot in the book is, you're probably not training to be a Navy SEAL. Let's just be real, but maybe you are. Maybe you are. Living a secret life. I don't know when. I guess you'd make the time. But what would you say to someone who maybe does read this, but thinks to themselves, "That's great for him, but I'm not David Goggins. I'm not training to be a Navy SEAL." How can this apply to me in my life?
Take the concepts out of it. And I think that we talked about it, the 3 main points, the power of the mind, 40% rule, and being uncommon amongst the uncommon. So if you're looking to be the best day trader that there is on Wall Street, well, you're going to put in the 20-hour days, because it's the bell rings at 8:00 and then it rings again at 5:00. And so trading's done, but are you done learning? And so, one that he talks about in there as he was training for the ultra marathon. So what he would do is he was like, man, he still worked a 50-hour work week. Mind blowing to me that he was working a 50-hour work week. But he was waking up at 4 a.m. and he would go for an hour jog. He'd run till 5. He'd come home, he'd do whatever, and then he'd go get on his bicycle and he'd ride his bicycle 15 miles to work. And then at work, on lunch, he would take his lunch break was spent. He would go and jog his lunch break or ride his bicycle or work, do what he had to do. He was fitting it in the crevices of the time. And so, if you're really wanting to go accomplish something, I start looking, where can I fit this in? And then be willing to put in the work. If you're wanting what David Goggins had, you can have it. Go do the work. It's one I love that, John Maxwell talks about it all the time. I love when he's talking about people always like, man, I wish I could do what you were doing. And he's like, but are you willing to do what I did to get here? Hey, you can have whatever you want, but you got to be willing to put in the time. And so if I'm wanting to be the next John Maxwell, well, am I willing to go and read as many books as John Maxwell read? Am I willing to write as many books as John Maxwell writes? Am I willing to travel and give up vacation time to go learn from somebody else and pay somebody to mentor me during my vacation time? Am I willing to do that? I would say Maxwell's on that level that Goggins is. If Maxwell would have wanted to be a SEAL, he could have done it, but that's not what he chose to do.
But also, I feel like it's important to know and acknowledge the fact that between me, where I'm at right now in my leadership journey, and John Maxwell, there's a big gap, you know? And realistically, am I ever going to be John Maxwell? Slim to none chances. But
I mean, you could.
I could. But even if, the odds are against me, let's even just say from where I'm at to David Goggins,
Well,
am I going to be a Navy SEAL?
But why would you say they're against
Again,
you?
slim to none. But my point is, do I just not try then? Because one thing that I love that Goggins points out is you are probably not training to be a SEAL. You probably never will, but you're reading this book. And just like the listeners, they're here because they're listening to the podcast. They probably want to grow and, get better because there's something that they want to improve about their lives or their careers. So you gotta try. You gotta just put in the work, and you might not be John Maxwell or David Goggins or whoever is like the pinnacle of where you want. But if you never get started, like you say all the time, you gotta get started to be great. You just gotta start. You gotta put in the work and be better than you were yesterday.
Yes. And that's what it is. Because I would say, like, while you're like, oh, don't compare it. Like, you're looking
Right.
at John way, like, he's been way further.
Of course.
But I would say that it's the cop out to say, try to do your best. No, do your best.
Yeah.
They don't say, I tried. Losers try. I don't like working with losers because a loser mentality is awful. But go do your best. And kind of like when I talked about that Atomic Habits, it's talking about being 1% better. That's what he's talking about here in this book. This book is not talking about, hey, you got to get to my level. He didn't get to that level overnight. It took him years upon years upon years upon years. And that's why when I said, but when you're like, oh, I could never be John Maxwell. Well, that's bull. You could be John Maxwell.
I didn't say I could.
Or you
I said I probably won't.
But follow me. You have to put in the work that John Maxwell put in.
Right. And he's the same way. He didn't become John Maxwell overnight. It was a long journey. He talks about that a lot in his books, where he started and what he learned along the way.
Oh, yeah. And that's where it is here, because even Goggins talked about it was pushing on and moving to the next challenge, so on and so forth. But it really was. And guys, because we're coming up on time and kind of starting to wrap it up and put things into perspective for you guys. But it really was. It was such a great read. And I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, you will never be a Navy SEAL. I don't want you to think that. I want you to go ahead and attack. They keep going on. Think what can I do to get better? What can I do? Okay. And so, and that kind of, that really wraps it up, guys. Like today's episode, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And I really hope that it challenged you in the way the book challenged me. And remember that most of us are only operating at 40%. And so the question is, what would your life look like if you pushed just a little bit harder, just a little bit further, if you were willing to go and do just a little bit more?
Exactly. And whether it's your mindset, your habits, or your hustle, Goggins reminds us that greatness lives on the other side of that pain and discomfort. So take the challenge, look accountability in the mirror, and start showing up for yourself.
Yes. And before we wrap it all up, I do want to say thank you again to Vicki Hubbard and the team at Hubbard Flooring Studio for sponsoring today's show and becoming one of our premier and premium sponsors. And so if you're ready to upgrade your floors and elevate your space, they give them a call or head over to their website. And she did give me a code for my listeners to use. And this is for any, right now she's wanting to push her rugs. You're going to get 10% off on the website. It's Hub Flow. So HUBFL. I forgot to mention that earlier. So HUBFL on the website, and you're going to get 10% off for my listeners. And reach out to them. You'll be glad you did. Vicki is awesome. And oh yeah. Thanks, Vicki. We appreciate you. And if you're ready to go deeper in your personal growth journey, whether it's mindset coaching, leadership development, or unlocking your next level, connect with me on my website or shoot me an email, aaron@coachaclark.com. Let's get connected and do the work.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Again, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment. Let us know what you thought about the book review. This is the first time we've done a book review with co-host. So I'm excited, that I was able to be a part of this episode today. And make sure to leave any questions for the Ask the Coach episodes as well. And we will see you next time on the Clark Connection podcast.
Yes, and until then, stay focused, stay hungry, and remember, as Goggins says, you can't hurt a mind that refuses to quit. See y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_a_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metals, Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, Joseph with Landscape King, and Chris and Jess with C&J Embroidery. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.